2017, published by Square Enix, on release for the Sony PlayStation 4 and Microsoft Windows, NieR Automata, praised for its gameplay, plot concept, and character portrayals. It was a surprise hit for Square Enix. The game had a surprising amount of lore and details from the game that were only made available for gamers to learn through multiple playthroughs of the entire game, which were thought of as a sort of paradox. Most casual gamers never complete games as complex as Automata, and online discussions hunted that some of the character details for various characters were completely missed by the general gaming base. One of the characters in the game was that of Simone, the first real boss that the player encounters in the game. What were interesting in terms of character details for this particular boss is that there's more information about the character that isn't easily or readily known to the player. The first playthrough as 2B has it that essentially Simone controls the amusement park in the game, and for plot details needs to be destroyed due to androids being destroyed by this machine. The second playthrough, however, which roughly half of the entire percentage of those who had played NieR Automata never got to 9S's playthrough, but for those that did, had him hack into the creature's memory to learn more about her as well as her motives for why she did what she did. Originally, Simone was just another machine life form that lived hundreds or even thousands of years ago, and through circumstances achieved self-awareness. Simone eventually began to develop feelings for another machine-based life form by the name of Jean-Paul. Despite Simone's attempts or efforts to try and gain Jean-Paul's attention, he didn't seem to care nor notice her. Simone overheard other robots discussing beauty treatments and some of the more bizarre ways of attracting attention, or these beauty treatments were to actually consume or use the parts of androids or even other robots. The fact that Simone couldn't do anything to get Jean-Paul's attention drove her increasingly mad, and as a result, she implemented these bizarre methods of beauty. During these methods of beauty, once her body was completely remade with all of the machine or android components, she then started to lure androids into the amusement park with the intent of cannibalizing them. As even after all this, Simone still firmly, fanatically believed the theory that eating an android's flesh would make her more physically beautiful. Once the androids are skinned, they're not destroyed. Simone would reprogram them to turn them into semi-functional weapons, both to lure other androids deep into the amusement park and also serve as her personal bodyguards. As through 9S's hacking feed mentioned that if Simone were to have done things differently, would Jean-Paul have noticed her regardless of the possible outcome? Essentially to love and never be loved in return. Even after her destruction in Automata, Simone returned to become the main antagonist for the mobile phone Sino Alice. Towards the end of the game, the player can go through a library which is representative of the machine network. Using any character except 2B, Simone had dialogue that can be heard through multiple battles throughout the game. On a final aspect of information, coincidentally or curiously in the Japanese version, there are records that the character is referred to as Simone de Beauvoir. Sources indicate that the character might have been inspired by French feminist philosopher Simone de Beauvoir, who was known for being in an open relationship with Jean-Paul Sartre, as these real-life figures often had a complex as well as complicated relationship. Sometimes the character can be forgotten because there were more details that weren't known to most people.